Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Chaos Within podcast.
With an extra side of chaos.
Definitely an extra side of chaos today. We ain't even getting nowhere yet. Let's just go right into it today because we got a lot of stuff we're gonna be covering today. Let's see. First, should be easy. Let's go with. We wanted to do this last episode, but things got ahead of us. But February game releases.
Yes.
What's on the docket?
So I'm just gonna talk about what I'm excited about because there's a lot of games, but I don't really care about all of them. So the first one I wanted to talk about was Lost Records: Bloom and Rage. This is made by the same creators of Life is Strange, which I didn't get to play that game, but it was one that was always on my list that I just never got to. And what I think is really cool about it is it's like a group of people. They're going like basically back to 1995. So they're 27 years later, they're revisiting the past to go ahead and confront the secrets that made them stop talking to each other. It seems like there's a lot of really dark and twisted stuff happening. It's like what you did I know what you did last summer, but they don't know what they did last summer, so they're trying to figure it out way down the line. And I think for me, this seems like the kind of story-driven game that I'd really enjoy, so I'm looking forward to that, and that comes out on February 18th.
For me, the only game that I've been looking forward to most of February, I don't even think I'm gonna like it, that's the sad part, is Avowed. Xbox exclusive. It is a game mostly, it seems like it's magic driven, and here's why. I know I'm probably not gonna like it, even though I'm looking forward to it. It looks like Skyrim. So, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm walking into a trap right now.
Wait,
so,
you didn't like Skyrim. Hold on,
exactly.
Pause. Exactly. You didn't like Skyrim, so why would you do that?
That's what I'm saying to myself. I'm like, it's going to be on Game Pass. I think that's the reason why. I got Game Pass. It's going to be launching. Exactly. I get to play it for a little while. Then I disappoint everybody by saying I didn't like it. But this has been a game in development for quite a while. Finally coming out a few years now. It's been at a couple of Xbox shows, but every time I see it, it looks more and more interesting. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm mostly interested in it. Like I said, it really kind of on the surface kind of looks more akin to Skyrim, just a lot more magic heavy. So that's why I'm mostly interested in it. And then my other game that I'm looking forward to is Assassin's Creed Oh wait, my bad, I'm sorry, my bad, never mind, I forgot.
We're just gonna cruise right on by that rude remark. So actually the other game I'm really excited about is Monster Hunter Wilds. I don't know if you've ever played any of the Monster Hunter games, but it's really like literally what the title is. You go out, you hunt massively large monsters, and it's just a very, I think the one thing that draws me into this game is it's a living, breathing world. Like, you'll run into monsters having battles between themselves, going through turf wars, and you might be able to get in the middle of it and take advantage, get the monster that you're looking for. But I think the coolest thing about this one is this is the first version of the game in the series that's actually fully voiced. So for the first time, all the conversation bits should have actual conversation happening, which I think is really cool. And then you get this really cool little palico as well that comes around with you. It's like a little creature. Mine was a cat from the beta, and from what I understand, your character from the beta, so long as you don't delete anything, will carry through to the actual game. So I'm really excited about that too, because I should be able to pick up right where I left off there. But yeah, I'm excited to play that one. Hopefully we can, convince another person to play with me and my husband.
So this is what I got to say about that. Rick, if you're listening to this, if this episode gets 125 views, I will buy Monster Hunter Wild. No questions asked.
Wow. All right, so you guys heard it. Share this with everyone you know so that we can get John to play that game with us, so we'll have a perfect trio.
I will do it.
This is my personal appeal.
It's all on you. I'm not even gonna mention anything about this episode. Not gonna tell anybody it ever came out. Just like, you got this.
Oh, it's fine. I know this is like the perfect clip for release day.
I think one other game that I just wanted to mention because I've been interested in the series is Like a Dragon, the pirate Yakuza game. Mm-hmm. Only because I've been interested in that series for quite a while, but I just never really started it yet. The Yakuza series. I wanted to play Like a Dragon. I just never got around to it because so many games. But
yeah, I've never played any of those games, so that's new.
it has, when I watch it, it has this goofiness that I like. Just, I feel like I should try it. Like, it just looks like it's down my alley. But I just, like I said, time. So
make time.
I try. Next up, you traveled the world again.
I did not travel the world.
You went to a show.
I did. So I went to New York City and I saw the 20 Sided Tavern show. Which, if you're unfamiliar with it, it is a show that's been running for quite a while now, and it's an interactive D&D based show. So the first thing that happens when you get in there, all of the actors are roaming out and about, like ready to talk to you and engage with you, which I thought was really cool, because the first thing they did was they were handing out little pieces of paper and pencils, and they're like, give us a noun and adjective. There's going to be a part in Act 2 that we're going to use these for something. And it was like, oh, cool. Like, this is really awesome. And then you also get like a sticker inside of your book. It'll be either blue, red, or green, and that indicates the character that you'll be able to control throughout. So I ended up with the red, which was the warrior. There was green, which was the trickster, and then the blue was the cleric person. So
I have a question.
They're like the sorcerer. Yes.
So when you say control, what do you mean by control?
Oh, so I was going to get to that. So after you look at your sticker, there's also a QR code that's in the book. You scan that QR code and it opens up this thing called Gameotics. And whenever there's a point where it's time to make a decision, it'll pop up on your phone and you get to select your choice, and then whatever has the majority wins. So the game, like the show starts off with, like, you know, as they're getting everybody in there and kind of used to the system, they'll ask you, okay, like what kind of music did you want to choose for the next round of music? It was like bold, joyful, and I forgot what the third option was, and everybody chose bold, so the music was like really intense, like battle scene kind of music. And then I was asking like what kind of creature we want to see up on the screen next, and it was like teeth, tails, or something else. Me remembering a third option today is going to be really hard, but we ended up choosing tails, and so it showed this creature with all these different tails on the screen, and it was just like a really cool setup. And then what would happen throughout the show is you would get to choose a few different things. Like maybe there's a scenario that's playing out and they're like, okay, do you want to go with this person's idea, or this person's idea? And we get to choose. And then whoever got the majority of the votes, they would go ahead and roll to see if their idea was successful. And then they would have to act it out. And what I thought was really funny about this is anytime someone got a nat 1, they got a silly hat, but they also had to act out how that critical failure looked. So it was like, there was one part where the trickster ended up with a really, really good roll. She was successful. But the warrior ended up with a really, really bad roll. And we were asking them to deceive the barkeep into not paying their bill for all the drinks that they had. And so the trickster was played as a cat. That was the character that she ended up being. So she's like, she goes to the barkeep and she's like, oh, I'm your cat, Buttons. You know, remember me when you were a kid? And, you know, your father sent me to a farm upstate. And the warrior, who got a nat 1, said, yeah, that's me. I'm a farm upstate. And you're like, what are you doing? And then the cleric's like trying to put his hand over his mouth and drag him away. He's like, what are you doing? And then the cat ends up like knocking him out. So he stops saying that he's a farm upstate, because that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. But then she ends up convincing him that, you know, she shouldn't pay the debt because he had forgotten about his favorite cat, Buttons, and, you know, he was done. And like as the show progresses, it just gets more and more unhinged. There's parts where they bring out the audience for stuff. Anytime it was time to name something, they would ask the audience, like members, for different names for things. It was a really fun experience. Initially, I did start off a little bit bummed, I will be honest. We went out there because Neil Newbon from my brain, Baldur's Gate 3, he played Asterion, was supposed to play the sorcerer, but he was sick, so he couldn't make it. We could have left if we wanted to, but we decided to stay and go to the show anyway, and we saw a great time. So highly recommend it if you're in the city. I know as I'm talking through this, we'll probably like drop some clips here and there, because I did get lots of pictures, lots of videos. They heavily encourage that. They really want you to feel like you're part of the experience, and I'm definitely going back. They gave me a coupon to go back, so I'm going back. Maybe I'll drag more people with me next time.
You got a coupon to go back?
Yes.
We gotta talk about this later.
Yes. Most definitely. Oh, and I got this shirt. I gotta share my shirt. Ale and well met. Something that they say a lot. So it's one of the things they have us chant back to them. So definitely a good time. I highly recommend it. And of course, it's a day in the city. There's lots of really cool restaurants and stuff around that area. So check it out.
Is there food included in this experience, or is this just watching?
It's just watching, but they do have like a full bar there if you want to drink. And yeah, and you can bring in food. I don't think they stopped anyone who brought in food. So.
Because to me, I don't know if you've ever been, but this sounds like a elevator version of medieval times. Have you heard of that?
Maybe, yeah, but yeah, there's no food. And I feel like it's more interactive than medieval times because you're literally like, there's a vote that comes up all the time. So you're constantly voting for things. And then like, especially if it's something like, okay, your character is the one that's chosen. Here's the 3 ways that they're going to handle this situation. Which one do you like best? So like, it's very, very in-depth. But really good introduction to D&D, I think, as well.
Maybe I'll be there one day.
You'll come back with me. It's fine.
Okay, let's see. Next up on the docket, what else do we want to talk about? Now we can cap the episode here. It's time to go.
No capping.
We both have been streaming games, and we both just so happen to finish both games at the same time. So I guess you can say we're going to review those games right now.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
So who wants to start?
I think I'll start because my game was way longer than your game. Like, not for nothing. No, just kidding. Anyway. So I've been playing Dragon Age Veilguard. I actually got to 65 hours of playtime, roughly, just about. I did everything in the game. Did all the side quests, all the companion quests, all the main quests. Like, I did it all. And I would say overall, I really enjoyed my experience in the game. I did come up against something that really frustrated me throughout, and it was like the meeting that could have been an email equivalent of missions. They would send me on a mission, and it's like, oh, you're going to go to this place where this person's having coffee. But then you literally just have coffee and a conversation, and that's the mission, and you leave. And it just felt like we could have had this conversation back at like our main hideout. Like, why are we doing this? And then some of the character stories didn't feel like they were as fleshed out as they should have been. Like, it was very one-note kind of stuff. So that kind of took a little bit away from me. But overall, I enjoyed my experience with the game. I think that I probably got the good ending, which is probably why I also really enjoyed my experience with the game. I like that all of the decisions that I made throughout the game had impacts later on. So, like, there's one point where I had to choose between saving one town and another, and that impacted the way one of the characters treated me for the rest of the game. There were points where I was having conversations with people, and like one guy, I punched him. So later on, because I punched him earlier, I couldn't convince him to like do the right thing later on. So it's just like little things here and there. Like, your decisions actually do have impacts later on in the game, and that's something that I really enjoy. And I also like just playing like a really strong little dwarf warrior, which is exciting for me because the original version of my orc was a dwarf. She was reincarnated into an orc. So it's like kind of me playing my early Mazikeen again. So overall good. The fighting was really good. I had a really cool boss battles. And I was happy with the ending. So overall, I'd recommend it if you like story driven, but just go in it prepared that there's going to be some missions where you're just like, why did I even do this? But yeah.
From spectating most of the time, I want to say that I feel like the rap that game got was unwarranted. Because I feel like we live in a world when somebody reviews a game, they take it and run with it. Yep. And I feel like watching you play it and just forming my own opinion based on what you were playing, I feel like a lot of people is woke that conversation, and more so they were saying like the story wasn't interesting, and I'm like, based on what I've seen just play out this entire time, I don't understand how you would say the story is not interesting. I mean, even the side quest is definitely it would keep me engaged. Like I said, it's not my type of game only because of the time period. That's why I would probably never play it myself. Yeah. But watching it, I think when it came out, because it was just drowned in controversy of not being the greatest of games. I kind of felt like that definitely was unwarranted, and I just feel like, you know, when people talk about games, you should follow up immediately and just say, did you play it though? How long did you play it? Because there are some games where you can put an hour into it and that's not even touching the surface. Then there's a game like that where it feels like you should definitely put like a minimum of like 5 hours in to just get a big lay of the land and understand what you're playing. And then taking another dive deeper, this game seems to have a lot riding on it from the BioWare aspect of it. And I feel like this was, I wouldn't say classic BioWare, but definitely felt like we were getting back to what they stood for, and storytelling, all that stuff. Like gameplay, in my opinion, wasn't like always the best in BioWare games, but their story you could always count on. And that's my experience watching you play it. So
yeah, the crazy thing about it is most of the lead writers from that game got laid off because of how the game went. And I know why people were saying, oh, it's woke. There is one character in the game where most of their companion quests are like them realizing they're non-binary, them coming out to their parent as non-binary, the parent not accepting it, and like, you know, you encouraging or not encouraging it along the way. But I think that if you're going to call it woke for like one very minor storyline, because really you could just decide you don't care about their loyalty and do none of those quests. They'll die in the end, probably, but you can decide not to do any of that if you really want to. Although I don't, like, it had good story. I don't know. I can see where people were saying it's not BioWare's best. They could have fleshed out some things a little bit more. Some parts felt a little rushed, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the people that played it probably didn't give it much of a chance. They heard about the one woke character and they're just like, I don't want to touch it. It's too woke. Especially because they visually look female. So that for them is just like another thing, because you and I have had these conversations 1,000 times. People seem to not like seeing women in games. And for a woman who's been in gaming for well over 30 years of my life, yes, I'm old, I'm okay with it.
Damn.
It's nice to finally see so many more female lead characters in games and female companions in games. And like, you know, guys, I'm sorry, you've had your time for a long time. It's time to give the girls a little something every once in a while, you know what I mean? And if you don't like it, don't buy it. But like, don't rag on it just because of one minor storyline, because I feel like that's kind of wasted time.
Oh yeah. 100%. What game are you moving on to next?
So I am now moving on to Last of Us Part 1. This is my very first playthrough, so I'm prepared to be terrified. I did watch Rick play through a lot of it, so like I'm really familiar with the story and the flow of it. I've also watched the show, so like I know there's differences, but there's still a lot of similarities there. They're really good about keeping it as close as possible. So I'm excited for that. As a hopefully reformed chicken baby, I'm hoping that I don't cry, but I will be bringing back my infamous heart rate monitor on screen for the streams, so you can see exactly how terrified I am.
I think you're going to be on face. I think you're going to be on face.
You have a lot of faith.
I think you're stronger than you think.
Maybe. But you also finished playing a game, which actually, after watching you stream it, I kind of want to play it myself.
Yes, I just finished Alan Wake 2. That was my first time finishing the game. I did start it. I bought it when it came out, launch day, and I did start it. I got a couple hours into it, but something else came out, and I put it down and just never was able to get back to it.
It was all this time.
Yeah, it is always going to happen to me. I just come back to games eventually. But Alan Wake 2. So from the first one to the second one, there's 13 years in between, and they use that same timeline in the game of 13 years happening between both games when Alan Wake disappears to when he resurfaces. Part 1, I would say, is not. It is thriller 100% sure. You've seen part 2, so I can only talk to you from the part 2 standpoint. But from part 1, it is kind of the same thing of him writing his story, but the more horror elements of it is not there. It's way more into the thriller. It's not as dark, all that stuff. So going into part 2, it is definitely, I would say, horror borderline thriller, because it definitely dives into a lot of dark aspects and just how dark the story has to get for him to get out of the dark place. So as far as a sequel, I definitely enjoyed it 100%. I also enjoyed Remedy, the studio who makes the game. They are intertwining pretty much all the games they're making, whether it be directly or whether it be in a loose way. Like there's a character whose name is Alex Casey. Alex Casey is the character that made Alan Wake famous. He wrote him as a detective, but when you see him, you don't see him in the first game. In the second game, you see him, and his face is Sam Lake. Sam Lake is the writer behind Alan Wake and most of Remedy games, but Sam Lake was also the original face of Max Payne. Remedy made Max Payne, but Max Payne is owned by Rockstar. So the character Alex Casey looks exactly like Max Payne. So that's one thing. And then you have one other twist, Sean Ashmore. People know him more for X-Men. At least I know him for X-Men. I know he's been in other things, but I know him as Iceman from X-Men. He's in another game by Remedy called Quantum Break. So he appears in this game as the sheriff, but he disappears, and then he also makes a reference into himself of being a time traveler of sorts. So that is what Quantum Break is about. And then one of my favorites, after kind of reading into it, is Mr. Door, another character in Alan Wake 2. He is a reference to originally the actor that was supposed to play him. I can't remember his name. But in Quantum Break, his character was called Mr. Hatch. If you've played Horizon Zero Dawn, there's a character where, what is his name? Silence. Can't remember which one it was. But that guy, he passed away.
We'll put the right name somewhere.
Exactly. Show his face. He played. He passed away probably 2 years ago. So there was rumors that he was supposed to actually return as the character he played as in Quantum Break as Mr. Hatch, because just like Mr. Door, he's there, but what his role is kind of like ambiguous. It seems like he has a lot more to him than what's being let on. So that is the exact thing that Mr. Door is playing. So there's just a lot of twists and turns, and then also the direct tie-in of Control, which is a game I just started now. I'm doing a lot of talking, I'm sorry. So Control is tied in just with the entity of the Federal Bureau of Control, and just the whole aspect of them appearing in Alan Wake 2, and then Remedy basically saying, yeah, these two games tie in together, because they did it with the first Control, but only as DLC. So it was never like, is this really happening? Like, what's going on? Because that's how Alan Wake was kind of able to come back, because he, like I said, it was 13 years between the two games, but Control came out in between, and then they used the DLC to say, hey, you know what, we had a DLC just based on Alan Wake, what happened to Alan Wake. So he appears in Control, talking to himself in a room and typing a story in Control. So that is how we end up getting to Alan Wake 2. But overall story, definitely enjoyed it 100%. Enjoyed the gameplay aspect, was fun. As we got to the end, there was a part that I personally didn't want to do, because just I didn't have the investment to do it, which was playing the game a second time to get the true ending. On stream, if you decide to go watch those streams, which are on Twitch, there is the actual, you end the game and then gives you, which is essentially a new game plus, but there are a little bit more tidbits to it that give you a complete ending by the time you get to the end of new game plus. So definitely enjoyed that too, and that's all I got.
I mean, it was good though. From my point of view, watching it, I think that there was a lot of really cool tie-ins to how the characters interact with each other, because you're playing both as Alan Wake and as Saga Anderson, who she ends up finding out that she has ties to this place that she's at, where she's going to essentially figure out what's going on there and save her daughter, because her daughter got pulled into the story somehow. So save everyone, save her daughter, right? So I thought that was really cool. I'm gonna say though, my favorite parts were the musical parts. That like having it just bust out into like random music out of nowhere was so cool for me, and the songs were good. Like sometimes you'll get video game songs and you're like, ugh, like I would never listen to this again. The songs in that were good. Like I really enjoyed that. But I think overall, as a person that likes reading, that doesn't have enough time to read, I really like that this was written through the perspective of, this is a guy that's writing a story and he has to choose an ending that fits within the narrative of the genre so that we can end it. So he's like, it's a horror story. We have to give it a horror ending, an ending that makes sense in a horror themed book. How do we do that? And I thought that was really good, that it didn't just become, I'll just write whatever I want. He was like, no, it has to be like genre appropriate or it won't work. And that was a big focus. And I like that the New Game Plus actually gives you a reason to play again. I know that you didn't, but I think it's really cool that you'll get extra tidbits throughout the game that fill in a lot of those gaps. So it is worthwhile, because I think that that's something a lot of games don't really build in. They'll say like, oh, play the game again for whatever reason. And it's like, but you're not like, my decisions don't matter. Like I'm not going to get anything extra. Why would I play this again? And I think that's something that Alan Wake did really well with the New Game Plus. I think that's something that Dragon Age did really well with all of your decisions mattering. And I'm excited to see you keep playing Control, because I'm really excited to see how that goes.
Yes, I decided to start Control because as we were playing, as I was saying, there was just so many tie-ins to Control that I felt like, the people who were in the streams, including you, would take interest in what happens in Control and what Control is about. Because Control is like own different entity in itself, completely different from Alan Wake, but still very interesting. So that is what I'm currently playing on stream as one of my storytelling games. I play too many games.
Well, that's the whole point, right? You do things for fun.
Yes. And then this one is what I enjoy, female-led Control.
Ah, yes, female protagonists are my favorite.
Yes. I have played Control. I've played it 2 other times, and this time I'm playing it on PC though. So this is my first time playing it on PC. I just play everything on PC now. So we'll get through it eventually. Hopefully you enjoy it.
I'm enjoying it so far, so I'm sure I will. Just keep it going. And because you're playing it on stream, you'll actually finish it. Bonus. Yeah.
I guess.
Like, John, why haven't you played Control? I want to see how that game goes.
I guess. Well, as far as Alan Wake, right? Because I like to grade my stuff. If I have to give it a grade, I would give it a solid 9 out of 10. So, yes.
Good score.
That's the John seal of approval.
That's good. I think for me, I'd probably give Dragon Age a 7.5 out of 10. It's just the missions that don't give me much, like the 5-minute missions were just annoying. And yeah, I feel like some of the stories could have been fleshed out more. So I'd give it a 7.5. Not a bad score, but like not the best. Not the best.
Because you mentioned about the part of being a writer in Alan Wake, if you actually do want to give it a try, I believe you will probably enjoy Alan Wake, the first one, a lot, because that story starts with him having writer's block and he hasn't written a story in years. So him writing the story or starting to write the story is also him fighting through his writer's block to try to get a story that works. So okay. I think that's something you might take interest in if you decide to give it a try.
So maybe that'll be my next on-stream thing. If Assassin's Creed fails me again, we'll see. Shadows is coming out in March. Knock on wood.
Hopefully.
I'm not gonna jinx it. I mean, if it doesn't, if they're like, honestly, it seems like they're taking that time to finish the game, and I'm probably going to keep having these conversations randomly until it actually is in my hands, because if it's a game series I love, I need a physical copy. So you'll probably hear me complain about it once a week until the copy is in my hands, and then it'll be like this. The start of the episode. Yes, I got it.
That's gonna be a TikTok once you get it. At the store, put it in your hand, and just get home and just breathe.
Yeah. Finally. And then downloading. No. I miss the days of buy the cartridge, put in the cartridge, turn on the system, play.
I know. That's a whole nother conversation. It's like, I don't know, just value. I feel like the value. I don't buy game physically much anymore. I haven't done that for a while, just because.
Then you don't actually own any of your games. They could take them away from you whenever they want.
Yeah, but then it's like the inverse of it is like, a lot of games. There is a very few amount of games that's actually on the disc when you buy the disc. So it's like, there's just like both sides to the argument, because it's like there are legitimately some games you're just literally buying the pass with the disc just to download it. There are other games where they actually at least have a version of the game on the disc. It's just like, you can't win either way, but that's another conversation into itself. Games.
Yeah,
so,
can't have it always, right?
Take
what you can get out of it and enjoy them while you can. And I think honestly, $60 for 65 hours of entertainment.
70.
Not bad.
70.
Well, yeah, they're $70 now. They keep getting more expensive. I don't know.
So we're here. I want to ask you a question. This is when we go into chaos, because this is unplanned. So $70 is how much a game costs, right? So for Grand Theft Auto, the game that you don't believe is ever coming out, there are rumors floating around that other publishers, aside, Rockstar, all that, there have been hints that some think that Grand Theft Auto will cost $100. Now, there are most of us, I'm included, I am willing to pay $100 because Rockstar has earned that trust from me. That's me. This is my opinion. It's just like Cyberpunk. If you told me the next Cyberpunk was going to cost $100, I would probably pay that $100 because I feel like CD Projekt Red has earned that trust from me. Everybody may feel differently about that and all that, but now people are trying to use Grand Theft Auto as the reason of saying, hey, if Grand Theft Auto is going to charge $100, we should also do it, which I feel like is a definite.
That's why I wouldn't buy it.
Yeah.
On principle, I know the moment I spend $100 on a standard copy of a game, all games are going to be that price by next month. It doesn't matter how much trust I have. I would, even Assassin's Creed, even Mass Effect, if the game suddenly they wanted to jump up and now it's like, oh, you want our game, it's $100, I'll wait till it's on sale. And it would hurt. But I know that the moment that other game companies see, oh, they're willing to pay that much, that's going to be the price. And I'm sorry, but with the way that the world is and how expensive it is just to buy food right now, I really can't be $30 is a tank of gas.
That's true. That is true.
Are you gonna give me that much more entertainment for that $30? Is that $30 gonna include like a DLC pass? Because if the $30 is just the standard game, you're charging me an extra $30, that's a hard no for me. I will not do it.
See,
it'll hurt, but I will not do it.
If we're keeping this conversation specifically to only Grand Theft Auto, like I said, I would pay it just because of what I got out of GTA 5. I think that's the last one that came out.
John, if games become $100 because of that game, I'm blaming you specifically. I'm going to send you a bill for that $30 increase for every game I got to pay it on.
That's why there's nuance to the conversation, because I feel like if you tell me something like, because it's always the game that comes to mind, if Warner Brothers decided, hey, we're going to start charging $100 as well. I'll be like, no, the hell you're not. What have you given me? Exactly. There are some people who's going to pay it. That's the problem. But like,
and they don't have to sell as many copies if they're overcharging by $30 a copy. So they'll still do it. And that's why you can't. You gotta look at it as not, I really want this, I want to have it. It's, if both sides of the fence. It's setting a bar that I don't want to be set for every game that comes out.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it's like a both sides of the fence argument for me, because I see both sides. Like, I understand. Like, if Grand Theft Auto did that, then it's probably going to set the precedent for everybody else to think like, okay, yeah, we can do that. But it's like, nah. Then everybody, if that was to be the thing, then we all have to kind of be like, no, that's not going to be the thing, because what have you guys done? All the broken games that shipped out is just like, y'all don't deserve that. And that's why I'm like, there are certain studios that put out games that earn my trust to say, hey, if that was the case, and because of how massive this game is going to be and how much playtime I'm most likely going to get out of it, because at this point you can say Grand Theft Auto is still selling somehow, and I just don't understand.
It's because 6 hasn't come out yet, and people want to play something.
Like, when we used to, I think it's called the MPD reports, which is just reporting on what games is being sold, but it was only physical media that they were keeping track of. Grand Theft Auto was on top of that list almost maybe 4 years after it released. And it's like, who hasn't owned the Grand Theft Auto yet that they're still buying it?
People that weren't old enough that had parents that wouldn't buy it.
And it's crazy. It's crazy. It's like, and it's been out this long, and it has such a long life for just GTA Online.
Well, you gotta remember, they have there's people that role play on that game, so they'll go into it like, I'm living out my whole life like I am this person in this game, and they stream it, and then other people see that, they're like, oh, this is fun. Because I feel like streaming is a gateway for a lot of people for games. You would think that you're never going to be interested in something, because for me personally, Alan Wake was a good example of that. I never would have thought that I would want to play that game, and then watching you play it and seeing how the story unfolded, I was like, actually, I kind of want to do that now. Same thing with Phasmophobia. I saw other people playing it, and I decided to give it a try. And now I actually really enjoy that game now. I feel like that's one of the things that people don't think about when they're thinking about streaming. When people are streaming older games, that's normally how the word gets spread. People are like, oh, actually, this game is old. It's actually kind of cheap right now, and this looks like a lot of fun. I'm going to go pick it up. And it is what it is.
That is what happened to me when... I think this was prior to you seeing my streams. Did you watch me play The Matrix?
I did not.
So I was playing that game, and while I was playing that game, there was just a whole bunch of people who came and was like, oh, did you play Jet Li? Did you play the Jet Li game? Oh, just all that. And I was like, I never even knew Jet Li had a game. So I went and downloaded it, and I was playing it on stream, and I was just like, if I was younger playing this game, I would have never finished this game, because this game is just ridiculously hard. And I'm like, there's this cult following for this game, and I understand it. Like, if you were there to watch, Anthony has mentioned it. So that was a struggle. That was a struggle game to get through.
We all have one.
So to get back on track, you wanted to cover D&D related topic, so yeah. You take the lead.
Well, no, so we're starting off with basics. So I think the first thing that we really should talk about, and I think this is the question that comes up most commonly. I was actually interviewed on a podcast over the summer, and one of the most common questions that I saw was, how do you decide what your character is going to be, or where do you pull your inspiration from? And I think that this one's really interesting for a lot of people, because sometimes people go into D&D with the mindset of, I'm going to make a character that's the polar opposite of me so I can act out what this looks like. You'll often have, I really like this character or the concept of this character from a TV show. I really like this anime character. I think they're really cool, and you can go with that. Using my character as an example, my orc was Mazikeen, and she was loosely based off of the Mazikeen from the Lucifer TV show, where in the beginning she's really angry and she's full-fledged he's the devil and I'm evil with him, and we do crazy stuff all the time. And really, the crazy stuff was really just orgies. My character wasn't partaking in any orgies, but they were really just doing crazy evil stuff and making deals all the time. And spoilers, but once you get to the end of the show, she actually becomes a different person. Like, she ends up being the person that is the guardian of hell. But she falls in love, and that love softens her a bit, and she makes friends with this little girl named Trixie. And that little girl, like, saw her real face and wasn't scared of her at all. She thought it was the coolest thing. And, like, she softens, and she eventually becomes, like, more of a protective force versus an angry one. And I think that's how I went into this idea with, I want her to be angry in the beginning and maybe wake up and be the hero by the end. Like, I want her to have this natural arc of progression. And I just kind of let the story guide me from there. I let the things that she experienced through her missions, the things that she experienced in her conversations and interactions with her companions, with NPCs in the world, shape how she got to that end point. And then she did. She went from the angry orc who was stealing babies' eyesight and voices for a hag, to the person, well, the orc, that saved the world. So I feel like she followed that natural progression. We also had another person in our campaign who based their character off of Alucard from the Dracula anime. And it was also very loosely based. It was just kind of like his personality, but really not much else about him, although he did play a Dhampir, which is like half vampire, half human hybrid. And like, that was his inspiration for it. But he only really took the personality traits of him and moved forward with his own fully fleshed out story from there. And like, he had a werewolf friend and like that died, and that really shaped how he was. And then growing through the companionship, that shaped how he was. So I think that it's really just, what would you feel passionate working through? And campaigns come in all different lengths. Like, we walked into that campaign knowing it was going to be a few years. Right now, the homebrew campaign, the campaign we're doing at home, we're doing Lost Mines of Phandelver, which is typically a shorter campaign. It's really like an introductory campaign, so you won't really get to flesh out your character as much. So I wouldn't say I'm not that attached to the character in this one, but I know that her time with me is going to be short-lived. So the inspiration for that one was just, these are all new players and I need to make a cleric. And I kind of let the dice decide for me on her like personality traits, and I just act them out through that. So really, whatever you want to be, you can do it. So I know you were talking about that barber idea. You want to be the barber that, you know, knows everything and, you know, kind of keeps everybody's secrets.
My question to you right now is, do you carry characters across campaigns, or do you leave like your current character that you just finished? Is that story done? Would you ever go back to being that character?
So that's a big, it depends. My character for this campaign, Mazikeen the Orc, is actually a reincarnation of my first character. And it's written into her story that the character that I played when I went through Lost Mines of Phandelver at some point has a falling out with her party, dies, and reincarnates in this new world as an orc. So this is a continuation of that character, just, you know, with some minor differences. But it was actually pretty interesting because whenever she encountered dwarfs in the campaign, the dwarfs would smell dwarf on her, even though she was an orc. And she also spoke the dwarven language. So that was just built into who she was. So it really is a big, it depends. I know some DMs will let you carry on, and I don't know how Rick is going to handle it for our home campaign, if he's going to let everybody keep those characters and move into something harder. Or if it's going to be, all right, you guys learn these characters, like, what do you want to do? Because sometimes they do leave it up to you. It's a very, it depends kind of situation. But I like the idea of letting a character move forward and continue on. I felt like in that little, like, low level 3, like, I think it's like a level 5 campaign, Lost Mines of Phandelver, you max out at level 5. I didn't feel like that was enough time with Mazikeen, and I really loved that character, so it was really exciting for me to carry her on into a new venture. Although she did have to restart at 1, but that's fine. I feel like she got a more complete ending.
I don't really have another question. My brain went like I was, as you were, so when you said it depends, I was like, Like, how many different ways could I reform this character into another character? I mean, if we're talking about, characters dying and reincarnating now, like, this is a whole nother ball game. Then, like, how many characters could I have? Like,
that's true. But I have to preface this with, my dwarf was a barbarian, and when she was reincarnated, she was still a barbarian. So she didn't fundamentally change what she does. She just changed the body she did it in. Her personality traits and all of that were still the same.
And then
until she started growing into like a better being, because you can't be evil forever.
So in essence, your imagination is your limit.
Yeah. And that's the magic of D&D. Once again, I keep telling you, it's not like a video. I know a lot of people like to make the comparison, it's like a video game, but it's not. It's better, because literally whatever you think of, you can do. Like, I know with Rick, the turtle that he played, Iroh, was a monk. And he would go into combat like, all right, I want to jump off this wall and do a backflip and land on top of this guy's shell down. And it's like, all right, roll for acrobatics. Let's see if you do it. And if he rolled well, he would go backflip off the wall and shell squash a dude to death, because he's 300 some odd pounds of shell coming right down on a human body. It's going to kill somebody. And you could do that. Like I said in the last one, really the only thing stopping you is the DM and the dice, and I guess also your imagination.
I think our audience, I think you guys should drop questions in the comments, because I know some people have commented that they've been interested in D&D. But I think we should this weekly D&D segment,
like an Ask Me Anything on D&D.
This should be something that we should do going forward.
I like it.
It is interesting. It's interesting for me just to listen to you talk about D&D.
And I could talk about D&D all day. There was once upon a time with my friend Kathy, we would meet up for lunches, and our lunches were very long lunches. We would go to a restaurant, and we'd be there from the lunch shift, and they'd be getting ready for dinner. We're still there talking about things that have happened in our campaign, things that we want to see happen in our campaign. Like, D&D is it's just that rich of a world that you can literally do anything. So it's cool to plan things ahead with people. So yeah, if we want to hit like a Ask Me Anything, drop your D&D questions and we'll cover them one section at a time. And hopefully that'll make you more prepared by the time the event comes up in March. And if you're curious about the event I'm talking about, if you go back to our last episode, I did talk about the Advancing Heroes Fund in memory of Jeffrey Vrillick, doing a series of one-shots at the end of March here in Shelton, Connecticut. So the link will be around here somewhere, and I think maybe we could just pull that part out as a clip so people have the information a little bit easier as well.
100%. Definitely. Link is in this will be in this episode. It's also in the last episode. So yeah, probably will be in all episodes until March. So
and then in March we'll be getting Jon's review of how it went for him, because it's going to be his first experience with D&D.
So this is my first roll, and he killed me on the first roll.
Oh, Rick's nicer than that. He'll kill you on the second roll.
It's going to be something tragic. Fall off a cliff.
No, you'll be fine.
I wasn't looking. Just happened to turn around, kept walking, and just slipped off a cliff.
Though I will say, he is the kind of DM that if you're not paying attention, you will get randomly bit by a snake or hit by an arrow. So pay attention.
Got it. Don't pay attention. Got it. Rick, don't. I think we hit everything we wanted to talk about today.
I think we did. So, of course, it's my turn to wrap everything up. So, for me and Jon, I want to let you all know, just go ahead, embrace the chaos. See what happens. Who knows? Maybe you'll find something fun.
You'll end up in a ditch.
Or a magical adventure.
See you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.